February 26, 1959. Height 1,079 meters. A student search party reaches the camp at 15:30 local. The tent is visible from 40 meters. It has not moved. No debris field, no signal fire. 25 days on the mountain. From the exterior, nothing registers as a breach condition. One face partially compressed by snowdrift accumulation, standard deformation geometry for a bivouac on sloped terrain. Slope angle, 23 degrees. Temperature at discovery, -30 Celsius. Wind at time of discovery, low. The night of February 1st is a separate question. Inside. All 9 hikers' footwear. Warm outer clothing. Full complement. Food supply. Estimated 3 days remaining. 4 cameras. A journal. Last entry. February 1st. No item has been removed in a disorganized manner. The tent carries the organization of a space abandoned deliberately, not the disorder of panic. Then, the exit. Not the door. The south panel, cut from the inside. Not torn. 3 cuts. Deliberate. Cut 1, 32 centimeters, straight. Cut 2, 89 centimeters, arcuate, the primary breach. Cut 3, 42 centimeters, arcuate. The canvas fiber direction is outward, consistent with a blade drawn from the interior surface. The door was not used. Nine hikers. 8 affiliated with the Ural Polytechnic Institute in Sverdlovsk, students and recent graduates in radio engineering, civil engineering, economics. All 8 held Grade 2 tourist certification. This was a Grade 3 expedition, the highest classification under the Soviet sport tourism ranking system. The 9th, a professional guide and mountain instructor, 38 years old, a veteran of the Second World War, employed at the Kurovka tourist base. He had no certification reason to join this route. He applied for a position and was accepted. The expedition leader was Igor Dyatlov, 23. He designed the route, 300 kilometers through the northern Urals in February, 16 days minimum, 8 of those days in uninhabited terrain with no external support. He submitted the movement plan to the Sverdlovsk City Route Commission. It was approved. Completing the route would certify 8 of the 9 at Grade 3, the equivalent of Master of Sports in the Soviet tourist ranking system. Dyatlov had led groups in comparable winter conditions before. On a prior expedition, his group survived a prolonged blizzard by constructing a snow cave and retreating safely. The commission had his record. January 23rd. The group departed Sverdlovsk by train. 6 days of transit. Serov by rail, Ivdel by rail, Vizhai by bus, Sector 41 by open truck, the Lozva River by skis. January 28th, at the second North Settlement. 1 member turned back. Yuri Yudin. Radiculitis. A sciatic nerve condition exacerbated by the cold. Before leaving, he confirmed the intended route, the equipment manifest, and the group's condition. He collected geological core samples from an abandoned facility nearby and returned to Sverdlovsk. He was the last outside observer to see all 9 alive. January 31st. The group attempted the ascent of Kholat Syakhl. Severe wind conditions on the slope forced a retreat to the tree line. They cached surplus food and equipment, a labaz, near the Auspia River and marked the position for the return journey. February 1st. A late start. In the late afternoon, on the northeastern slope of Kholat Syakhl, at an altitude of approximately 1,079 meters, they pitched the tent. That evening, before dark, inside the tent, the group produced a hand-written satirical newspaper. They called it the Evening Otterten. The mock science section contained new research on the Yeti who reportedly lived near Mount Otterton. They were in high spirits. It was the last thing they wrote. February 1st, the last journal entry. The group's planned return was February 12th. No telegram arrived from Vijay. No radio contact was established after departure from 2nd North. On February 26th, a student search party reached the northeastern slope. The tent was standing. From the tent entrance, 8 to 9 sets of footprints, departing together, down the northeastern slope. Single file, normal stride length. The footprints were preserved for approximately 500 meters. After 500 meters, the surface was wind-scoured. No further prints were recorded. The footprints did not return to the tent. Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko. Found at the cedar tree, 1,500 meters from the tent. A fire had been lit under the tree. The fire had burned out. Branches were absent from the cedar to a height of 5 meters. They had climbed it. Neither had outer clothing. Neither had boots. Cause of death: hypothermia. Igor Dyatlov. Found on the slope, 1,100 meters from the tent. Zenaida Kolmogorova, 770 meters. Rustem Slobodin, 920 meters. A non-lethal skull fracture. All three were found on the open slope. All three were oriented toward the tent. Cause of death in each case: hypothermia. 4 members of the group had not been found. The search continued through March and April. Their location would not be established for another 2 months. May 4th, 1959. 67 days after the last journal entry. The Lozva's 4th tributary. Searchers working the stream bed with metal probes. The probe strikes clothing. Depth, 4 meters, 50 centimeters. Distance from the cedar, 75 meters. 10 days prior, investigators had built a dam on the tributary to prevent bodies from being carried downstream in the spring thaw. 4 bodies. 3 of them share an injury event. Lyudmila Dubinina. Rib fractures, right side, numbers 2 through 5. Left side, numbers 2 through 7. 10 fractures total. The forensic physician's conclusion from the case record: impact of great force, like being hit by a car moving at high speed. Nikolai Thibault Brignoles. Depressed skull fracture, 7 centimeters by 3, with intracranial hemorrhage. Semyon Zolotaryov. 5 rib fractures, right side. 3 members of the group. 1 event. The 4th, Alexander Kolovatov. Same location. Same night. Cause of death: hypothermia. No rib fractures, no skull fracture, no major bone injury. A wound behind the right ear. Cause undetermined. Of the 4 people recovered from this ravine, Kolevatov was almost certainly the last alive. The injuries tell us the event was real. The shelter tells us it was survivable. The space between those 2 facts is where Phase 4 begins. Before any of them died, they built a shelter. Cedar and fir branches, arranged into a den on the ravine floor. Building it required standing, moving, placing materials. They had time. The shelter was not finished when they died. Zolotaryov was found with a camera around his neck. The film was developed. Standard expedition photographs. The last recoverable frame: hikers excavating the tent site in a snowstorm. 1 camera, designated number 552424643, was held by the searcher Yuri Koptolov, who developed the film privately before surrendering it to investigators. The developed film contained expedition photographs. Nothing anomalous. Soft tissue findings: Dubinina, tongue absent, eyes absent. Zolotaryov, eyes absent. Recovery conditions: 4 meters of snow above a running stream, February through May. Primary record explanation, consistent with extended submersion, and post-mortem scavenging. That is what the case file says. May 28, 1959. The Soviet investigation concluded. 9 victims, 9 autopsies, 5 months of search, 1 finding, cause of death, an unknown compelling force. That is the primary record's own language. Phase 4 evaluates the 3 theories subjected to primary source analysis. Each is measured against the same file. Theory 1. Avalanche. The prior dismissal rested on one number, 18 degrees. The average slope of the northeastern face, below the spontaneous slab release threshold. The error is in the average. The local slope at the tent position, where the group had cut a horizontal sleeping platform into the hillside, is 23 to 28 degrees. Above the threshold. The Gamma-Puzrin simulation, 2021. At that geometry, a small slab at 2 meters per second produces distributed thoracic compression consistent with the autopsy record. No debris field. The slab was small, and 25 days of winds redistributed it before discovery. What the model cannot account for. Orderly parallel footprints. Not running. 1 kilometer of post-impact survival travel. And Kolevatov. Theory 2. Military. The 2019 prosecutor's report states it directly. A search of declassified Ministry of Defense archives found no records of weapons activity, no air defense exercises, no tests, no ordnance, in the Ivdel region during the relevant window, no physical mechanism at the pass. The radiation on 3 clothing items was characterized by the investigating radiologist as washable, surface environmental contamination, consistent with Mayak, not ordnance. The theory's actual evidence is institutional. Sheets 370 through 378 of Delo No. 1, the radiological results, were held in a sealed envelope within the case file until the late 1980s. The military theory's primary evidence is not a weapon. It is that envelope. Theory 3. Infrasound. Kholat Syakhl is approximately 300 meters wide at the summit contour, a blunt elliptical dome. The Strohal vortex shedding calculation at the incident wind speed of 72 to 120 kilometers per hour yields a frequency range of 0.013 to 0.022 Hz. The panic threshold is 18 Hz. To produce that frequency from this mountain at these wind speeds, the obstacle would need to be approximately 0.22 meters wide, the width of a lamppost. This mountain is 300 meters wide. Infrasound at these frequencies can produce vertigo and spatial disorientation, a viable explanation for the tent exit. It cannot produce skeletal fractures. Split verdict: infrasound is viable for the tent exit. It is excluded as the cause of the ravine injuries. 3 theories, 1 primary record. What the record contains beyond the injury data. On February 1st, the group produced a satirical newspaper, The Evening Otterton, a mock science section, new research on the Yeti who reportedly lived near Mount Otterton. They were in high spirits. One of the in-tent cameras contained 34 frames. The last, underexposed, blurry light streaks. 1 frame, 1 camera, 1 roll. That is the entirety of the photographic evidence cited for the orb and military theories. The physical evidence points toward the avalanche framework. No single theory resolves every element of the record. The footprints remain, parallel, not running. Kolevatov remains. The investigation closed May 28, 1959. Cause of death: an unknown compelling force. The compelling force remains, in that specific sense, unknown. The Soviet investigation closed on May 28, 1959. Cause of death: an unknown compelling force. That phrase has been read as evasion. It was not. An unknown compelling force is a precise forensic statement. It means something acted on these people with sufficient force to produce the evidence we can observe, and we cannot identify what it was. The avalanche explains the injuries. It does not explain the footprints, orderly, parallel, not running, or the absence of a debris field. The military hypothesis explains the secrecy. It does not explain the specific date, the specific slope, the specific group. The infrasound hypothesis explains the initial exit. It does not explain what happened in the ravine. Under 4 meters of snow 4 months later, each framework accounts for part of the evidence. None accounts for all of it. What the record does show is this. After whatever happened, 3 of the 9 turned around. They walked back toward the tent in minus 30 degrees without boots and kept walking until they could not. That is not panic. That is a decision. 9 certified mountaineers, responding rationally to something we cannot observe. Kholat Syakhl is still there. The file is still open.